Okay, so welcome back to the third video. So we're starting off where we finished off in video 2. So this should look very familiar to you. So a couple of new concepts we're going to look at now, and one of them is that sometimes you might want to draw a rectangle in a certain orientation and it's just getting a little bit annoying and a bit frustrating because SketchUp keeps moving it around in strange ways. So what I want to show you is that if we want to do a rectangle flat on the ground, what's really useful is to look flat at the ground. So if I move this over here and then using my rectangle tool, it will naturally want to draw it flat, just like that. Now if I want to draw a rectangle that's going up on the side, if I'm still looking at it flat on the ground, it can be tricky because it's either going to snap and it doesn't want to give us any height, or if I move out a little bit, so there we go, so it's going flat again. Sometimes it will go up in the air, like that one's starting to go up in the air a little bit. I can tell from the perspective and the angle that that line on the bottom is moving at. But it tends to want to go out in this direction. So the easiest way to sort that out is you change your viewpoint and you make it so you're looking more towards the horizon. So as soon as you do that, it will normally want to draw in that orientation. So now it's going straight up in the air. Now if you want to get in the position where it is going to finish up around here but it's lined up perfectly with that bottom corner of this other rectangle, what you can do is hover your mouse on it just a couple of seconds and then you drag straight up from that end, and it means that without actually having to click on that corner, it will know that you want to line it up directly with there. So that can help with getting your basic shapes in the right orientation. Okay, so the second thing is some of the modifiers. So I'll zoom out a little bit. Now I'm going to select all of this building that I created, this simple building. Hasn't got a roof, but that's where we start. I'm going to use my arrow tool and drag a selection box over the whole thing. All right, so when I let go, the entire lot is selected. There are other ways to select all of something. I'll click to deselect it. If you select and click once, it selects either the surface, the solid surface, or the line you've clicked on. If you do 2 clicks, it will do the surface and all the lines around the edge of it. And if you do 3 clicks, it does the entire object. All right, so it depends what you want to do and what's going to be the best option for you. But either dragging across the entire lot or the triple click works for this one. Okay, so what I can do is if I want to move this to a certain location, I've got my move tool here. And I can click on it, and then I can click and I can drag my building around. What can be tricky is getting it exactly where you want sometimes. All right, so if I wanted this building to line up exactly with the edge of this one, what I would do, I'd change the angle I'm looking at it a little bit. I'd move my mouse and snap it to the bottom corner, so I know I'm exactly on that bottom corner. I click, and then as I'm moving it, it means I can still snap to things. So if I want to snap to the end of this other shape that I was creating over here, right, so I'm doing that top one because the bottom got a bit messy. It's sort of working, but that was that weird shape that we created from earlier on. If I want to align it directly with the top, then I can do that. I can click again, and now that is perfectly lined up with the top of that shape. All right, so that's just your basic movement going on. I'll undo that, so it goes back to where it was. The second thing is how to scale something, so if you want to make it bigger or smaller. Now the shortcut for that is that you can just press S on your keyboard. If you press S, then it comes up with this box with some green handles on it, so you can either go directly up or down. Now that's essentially the same as making your walls higher, but it also makes your window equally as high. So you can see how that window is stretching. So it tries to uniformly make it higher. I'll undo that. Generally, the corner ones are going to be the ones you're going to want to use because that will uniformly adjust everything. But again, it depends upon what you're doing. All right, so that's your scale, and when you're happy with it, you just let go. It'll be there at wherever you leave it, and then you can use your arrow tools to deselect. All right, so that's your scale. Now, one of the last modifiers will be the rotate. Now, again, I'm going to triple click to select the whole lot, and I'm going to go onto here to select rotate. All right, so this one comes up with this little tool, and it will change the angle depending upon what you're actually currently hovering your mouse over. So if I want it to rotate around the middle there, I click once and it locks that in, and then it tells me, or it asks me where I want to start my measuring from. It doesn't really matter for this one. I'm just going to click here. And then the third time I'm moving my mouse, it will start to move the actual object. Now I can just freestyle it and click, or again down the bottom corner, down here, you'll see that you've got your angle, and that's changing as I move my mouse. So if I want it to go 90 degrees, I could just type in 90 now and press enter, and it's flipped it around at right angles to where it was. Okay, so that's the rotate. So we've looked at how to do the basic shape, or I guess how to do basic shapes depending upon what angle you're looking at. That was that part here. We've looked at how to move, we've looked at how to scale, and we've looked at how to rotate. There's this one extra bit I'll show you with rotate, and that is if you want to tilt it, then you put your mouse on this end, you click once to lock it in, click once to start the rotate, and then you can move your mouse that way. Alright, so depends upon what you want to do. And if you want it at a really weird angle, you have to do it multiple times. So then I could do it from here, from there, right, and then it starts looking really tilted. Alright, so you have to think about how you want to rotate things, but generally we're not going to want to do anything too crazy for what we're doing within the scope of this unit. Alright, I'm going to undo that to get it back to where it was. Now the last thing that I'm going to show you is something that will be one of the final stages of your house construction task, and that is to do a roof. Now roofs of houses vary all the time. It depends upon what the house is and how it's been put together. But we'll be working with floor plans, and the floor plans don't always show what the roof looks like of a house. So this is where you'll need to either look at photos of the house, or you could go into Google Earth or Google Maps, change it to the camera mode, and then you can actually look at a top-down view of a roof of a house, and that might give you an idea about how it's constructed. So I'm going to show you a couple of basic approaches to roofing. I will create a couple of different small versions of houses. So this could be a bit of a weird T-shaped house, and then I'm going to do just a square sort of rectangle style house. All right, now I'm going to get rid of that line there. I'll zoom in a little bit, and we'll make it 3D. Okay, so there's house 1, there's house 2. Now for this house, it's going to have, and it's a very narrow house, but it's going to have a triangular roof where it's got a flat triangle on one side, and that travels the whole way down. So what you could do is you could try to draw the angles in and just create it by hand, but it can be really tough to get things to snap to the right spot. So for what I'd do, I would normally change my perspective. So I'm looking at it from the side. I would draw, hover my mouse over there and move it up. I would draw just another rectangle, and then I'd use my pen tool and I would draw the triangle on this side. Alright, so I've got that basic triangle. I can get rid of the ends of that shape that I've just created, and using the push-pull tool, I could then push this the whole way through. Now one thing you'll notice that happens quite a lot, and I'll snap to that end point there, so it lines up perfectly. One thing that happens quite a lot is this first area ends up being hollow. So the way to sort that out is you just go onto your pen tool again, and you redraw one of the sides, and that normally prompts the program into thinking, oh, that's meant to be hollow. Oh, sorry, not hollow, solid. So it will then create that shape again on the side. So we've got that. Now, one of the things with roofing that can seem to be really hard and really confusing is where you get strange angles and lines intersecting. So I'm going to do another style of roof on this side, but this time I'm going to show you how to get it to intersect really easily so that it makes your job simple. All right, so I'm going to do a basic slanted roof here. Again, I'll get rid of these extra, I'll get rid of the lines. By default, it gets rid of the inside because the inside can't exist without the line. All right, and now I'm going to use my push-pull again, but this time the push-pull will extend until it disappears inside this roof. So if I go to there, and then I can just click. All right, so even though the roof has extended inside here a little bit, we don't need to worry too much about it because we're just trying to make it appear to be accurate from the outside. Now, one of the things that's missing is the actual, or it's the black lines here. Where it's done the intersection, it's left that off. So we can easily add those in using our pen tool. We click here at the intersection point, and we go down to here and we click. And we can do the same thing on this side. And so now you've got, by using some simple construction methods, you've got what looks like a fairly complex roof, and it's been done pretty easily. All right, now the second way of doing a roof was having one where you've got your midpoint sticks up in the air and you've got 4 triangles on either side getting there. Now, one thing that this doesn't allow you to do by default is it doesn't snap right to the actual middle. So at the moment it's trying to do a alignment, but that's to where I've already drawn before. All right, so that little red dotted line doesn't apply to this other house I've done. Now, in order to find the exact midpoint, what I could easily do is do a couple of lines, do a crisscross from there to there, and from that point to that point. And then using the blue axis, I can click here and go straight up in the air. And if it's blue, I know it's going straight up. And I can check that by orbiting around. So I don't need these other lines anymore, so I'm going to delete them. It's really handy with SketchUp that when, that when you want to get rid of a line, as soon as you can, get rid of it. Otherwise, things can get a bit messy and a bit complicated later on. So now that I've got that point, I can then use my pen tool and just start drawing in all of the other lines. So from there to there, and it will fill it up straight away. So I've now got my point there. It means that I can also get rid of this line. Oops, if I can select it properly, that line in the middle. So now I can put in all the other lines and I'll end up with my roof. So from there to there, and there you go. So two different styles of roofs, both done fairly easily, but using those methods, you should be able to make some fairly complicated roofs fairly easily. All right, so that's the bulk of the construction stuff that I wanted to show you in this tutorial. There is one more tool which is really handy to use, and that's because if you're making the inside of your house and doing walls and then you're sticking your roof on it, you can't see the inside of the house anymore. And what I don't want you to have to do is then delete all the stuff you've done just so you can see inside. All right, so there's a tool that we can use called the section plane. It's in your tools menu, and it's here if you're using version 8. It might be in a different spot with a different version of SketchUp. But you click on the section plane and it comes up with this square with arrows. Now where the arrows are pointing is it's meant to point to the area that you want to see into, and everything on the other side, so in this case the top side of it, will disappear. So if I was to click or hover my mouse over this this side of the roof, you'll see that it's gone at that angle. It will, just like the when we're changing the angle, it'll change depending upon what surface you've actually got your mouse hovering on. So I'm going to go at this angle, and as soon as I click, it makes everything else disappear on the top side of it. Alright, so I can use my arrow tool and select this and make it go blue. Just like anything else in SketchUp, if it's blue, it means it's selected. I can use my move tool and I can drag it up and down, and you can see inside objects. So you don't have to delete anything. Everything's still there, even the stuff that's over on that other side there. But as you move it around, things temporarily disappear. The handy feature with the section plane is then you can then go and still work on the inside. So all of your options like snapping with your pen tool will work, and it treats it as if the top part of that house doesn't even exist. All right, so you can do that. You can move out. And the other thing you can do with the section plane is you can change the angle of it as well. So if I click on the surface here, you can see that the angle of the section plane changes. So not only can you move it, you can rotate it, you can play around with it. It's a really useful feature to be able to see inside objects which are solid, which have things hidden. Alright, so that's the end of this video. There's quite a lot of things for you to try out here. But again, just like all the other videos, make sure that this stuff works for you, that you've had a chance to play with it before you go any further, because it's all essential stuff for the final assessment task, which I'll be showing you in the next video. Alright. Good luck and enjoy playing around with it, and don't forget to ask for some help if you need it.